Hi guys, welcome back to my channel and to a brand new video. Today we're filming horror recommendations. So I'm kind of new to the genre of horror. I feel like I've only been really reading it for the last 2 years because I didn't understand it. I was a fan of thrillers and I still am a fan of thrillers, but I feel like I never really got anything out of thriller until I found the horror genre and kind of truly understood that it wasn't just scary slasher books all the time. And I'm still very much on my journey to understanding horror. I really fancied showing you some of the horror recommendations that I have accumulated over the last 2 years. I'm definitely not a professional when it comes to the horror front. I have so many on my TBR that I want to read. I have so much to learn, but I just wanted to show you things that I would recommend. Anyway, I have so many books in front of me. I'm just going to get on with talking about them. I've kind of categorized them into different sort of categories, so hopefully you will find something here that suits you whether you're a beginner or not to the horror genre. First of all, I want to start with YA because I have two YA horror recommendations and then the rest are adult, so I feel like we're better off starting with those. My first horror YA recommendation is Katherine House by Elizabeth Thomas. I did mention this in my autumn reading Rex video as well, so I'm sorry for doubling up on the recommendations if you saw that video too. But I read this, it must have been 3 years ago now, and I'm desperate to reread it again. It's one of those horrors that, again, it's not like outright scary, but it's deeply unsettling. Katherine House is a university that you spend 3 years at, but it's different to other universities. Inez is our main character who we follow as she gets accepted into Katherine House and goes there to attend. We start the book with her being in Katherine House, very confused as to what's going on. In Katherine House, while they spend there 3 years, they have no contact to the outside world. So it's a very isolated, creepy setting. Things in the university are not as they seem, and odd things happen. There's not a lot of explanation in this book. If you don't like open ends, you're not going to like this book, nor are you going to like the next YA recommendation I have for you. I think my first time ever experiencing a open-ended kind of story was with the next book I'm going to show you, and so I was still on the like new side of open endings, and I didn't really know how to feel. Like I was kind of infuriated, like just tell me what's happening. But as I've like thought back on this book over the years, it's intrigued me more and more, and I love an open ending now. So I feel like this becomes more and more to my tastes with every passing year. And even though I have not reread this since 2020 and I'm definitely due a reread, I couldn't encourage you to pick this up more. It is so atmospheric, perfect for the spooky season, which is obviously why I'm making this video. And if you are in maybe a bit like unsure where to start with horror, maybe you're not really confident in jumping straight into adult horror, I would recommend this. Or if you just like YA horror, I would definitely recommend this. Overall, it's a brilliant book with a lot of atmosphere, great writing, great character, a great cover too, to be honest. In a very similar vein to this, we have Wilder Girls by Rory Power. This is a little bit more graphic in the horror in terms of it has quite a lot of body horror in this. The descriptions of some of the things that happen, I remember being completely revolting. But again, a brilliant book that I could definitely recommend, especially for a YA audience. We follow our main character, Hetty, who goes to a school that has been under quarantine for 18 months. Things started to happen to the girls, like some sort of like plague thing that just started to morph their bodies in very weird ways. The school is set on an island and it was a boarding school. The people know about it, like the authorities know about it and they're helping, but the girls are like, why is this taking so long? Things start to happen on the island, and when one of Hetty's friends go missing, she will stop at nothing to find the answers. I think this is a very good start into horror. The writing in this is so good. I've not been a fan of Rory Power's other works since, I'll be honest, but I think this one was their debut and I really liked it. I think it was written so well. I loved the open ending. I loved the peculiar weirdness in this. It is also sapphic, which I absolutely loved. It's described here as a feminist LGBT sci-fi horror story with all the tantalizing elements of gore, mystery, war, and love that you can ask for. Real, flawed, brave girls against a world gone mad. I cannot sum it up better myself. That is just such an accurate depiction of this story. You can just see from the cover alone, which is just so beautiful, what you're going into here. And I couldn't recommend this enough. So again, if YA is what you're looking for, these are my best recommendations for a YA horror. As I said, those were my only YA, so now we're going to be moving on to adult. I think I'm going to start with my favourite vampire horror that I've read so far. Vampires are my favourite supernatural creature, I would say. I really, really like them, even though I do like them all. And I feel as though, dare I say, anything featuring vampires just doesn't really do it for me. It doesn't really hit the mark unless it's a vampire romance, which, yeah, okay, maybe a horror romance, but I don't think they really count. So the one I'm going to show you, I don't think they're even outright vampires. Anyway, it's House of Hunger by Alexis Henderson. I'm so glad I picked this up. I hated Year of the Witching. I DNF'd it. It put me in a slump for like a month. I just thought it was one of the worst books I've ever read. I know, I'm so sorry. Like, I know I didn't even finish it, so I can't even say that, but I almost didn't pick this up. I'm so glad I did. I picked it up in the half-price Waterstone sale. Thank God I did. I love this. So this is kind of following vampires, but they're never explicitly said that they're vampires. We basically follow Marion, who is very, very poor and has been poor her whole life. So when she gets invited to be, what are they even called? A blood maid. So essentially she would provide blood to the masters of the manor. She moves to the manor and, I mean, you know, does become a blood maid for the countess. It's all very creepy. I have no idea if the countess is like actually a vampire or if she just enjoys a little sucking of blood sometimes. I don't really know. But this is so wild. Like, the friends that Marion meets along the way, the like group of girls, is just fabulous. Like, they truly are some of my favorite like group of people. Even the ones that don't get along still have like a really nice bond. Why are you falling? But as the story goes on, the group of girls go missing one by one, and so Marion's like, what the hell is going on? And that's kind of just when shit hits the fan, to be honest. The descriptions and the gothic vibe in here is absolutely everything. If you're looking for a really atmospheric read, you found it. The writing is beautiful. The descriptions are downright terrifying and very off-putting, but in such a lyrical and beautiful way. Absolutely gorgeous. And even though I did not like The Year of the Witching at all, as I said, I cannot wait for the next thing that this author releases, because if she can write this, she can write anything. So revolving around women, which I absolutely love. And even though it's horrific, there's kind of like this weird love story to it at the same time. Like this like kind of like obsession. Can't recommend this enough. I need to reread this, even though it's only been like a year. Because it kind of follows a similar-ish vein to like the paranormal. I have like more of an alien type. I don't want to say alien because I don't think it's ever said that they're aliens, but like unknown creature horror, and that is The Watchers by A.M. Shine. I read this 2 years ago now. Yes, 2021. This terrified me to within an inch of its life. I think I read it in a vlog or something, but you'll find videos of me around this time in 2021 having read this and being so scared, because I literally would close my blinds before it got dark every single night of winter. I was petrified. And I almost DNF'd this book. So yeah, I almost DNF'd this halfway through because it was so boring. Nothing really happened. The second half of this is absolutely terrifying. Like, I don't know if I'll ever reread this because I was just so scared, but I want to. But I was so scared. We follow Mina, whose car literally breaks down on the edge of a forest, and that is the beginning of the book. She then walks into the forest and notices that something is wrong. There's like these weird animal howls. There's no reception, there's no birds, there is nothing. And then as she's walking for hours and hours and it starts to get dark, she comes across a cabin where a woman is begging her to come inside. She's like screaming, please come in, come in, come in. Mina's like really stressed and does it, which, was that wise? I don't know, but like, good for her. She knew, then the woman explains to her the monsters come out at night. And if you're caught outside, they will eat you. This is bloody well scary. Not only is it scary because you have these monsters who are tapping at the glass and making these terrifying noises, but it's also really scary because Mina is stuck in this tiny house with all of these strangers. And that to me is just, that's worse than anything. Like, the idea of like all these strangers having to come together who know nothing about each other and trust each other for their survival, and also trust each other to keep a calm and sane mindset, because it would be very easy to lose your sanity in this situation. It's just so creepy. It is kind of short. I think it's like 300 pages. I think this author is quite a slow, like I've read his other work as well, and he has got like quite a slow build up to things. It is a lovely atmosphere though, like he really describes this forest very well. You really do have to stick with it to get to like the scary parts, but this is scary, and the end left me so unsettled, and it kind of made me like rethink everything. This is so scary. Some other people are going to read it and be like, that's not that scary. But for me, this for some reason got me. This was just something I couldn't handle. And looking outside in the dark was so scary to me. I just couldn't do it. I was literally just closing all my blinds and my windows, desperate to just keep myself locked in. I have 2 books from the same author that I want to recommend, and those are CJ Tudor books. We have The Burning Girls and The Drift. These are like the 2 best ones. I like her book The Other People, but that's a thriller, definitely. These, I would say, are more on the side of horror. First up, The Burning Girls, we follow Jack Brooks, who is a priest who moves to a new town after the previous priest, I believe, kills himself. I'm not entirely sure. Then we just follow her and her daughter through moving to this new town, finding things are not as they seem. They find some weird things in their house. And it's a very it's a very gross, how do you even describe this? I don't even know how to describe this. Basically, 500 years ago, 8 martyrs were burnt to death. 30 years ago, 2 teenagers vanished without a trace. And 2 months ago, the vicar committed suicide. So it's kind of like a very weird town where weird things happen that no one can explain. And you follow 2 different storylines, because you not only follow Jack's storyline as she kind of uncovers mystery around the chapel and the past vicar and the people of the town, but you're also following her daughter, who is trying to make friends in this weird town and also discovers that people and things are not as they seem. Sorry, my grandmother rang. I think I was saying that this, if you're looking for something that isn't like a slasher or involves like paranormals, you're just looking for like a small town horror that is really unsettling and kind of creepy and very reminiscent of the English countryside, this is one I would recommend. And as I said, by the same author, we have The Drift by CJ Tudor. I absolutely adored this book. The only reason it didn't get 5 stars from me is because unfortunately there was some fat phobia in it that I obviously did not appreciate. I'm sorry if I keep moving my camera, it just keeps falling and it's really winding me up. I've moved you because I couldn't stand the thing falling, so hopefully this is okay. We have like 3 different storylines in this. So one, we're following a chalet with a group of friends in it. The other one is following a cable car that is stuck mid-air, and the other one is following an overturned bus. This is so spooky. Like, this is really scary. It's set obviously where there's a snowstorm, and so it's a real fight for survival. Things called the Whistlers, which we don't know if they're human, we don't know what they are, they just know that they're killing people. And even though it's a chunkier book, it keeps you so engaged with the 3 different storylines, keeps things fresh, and I did prefer some storylines to others, so it was keeping me engaged to get more to those, but there was none that I didn't enjoy. I think CJ Tudor is a really good way of being direct with her horror. Very reminiscent of Stephen King. I don't love Stephen King, but I feel like if you are a fan of Stephen King's works, you will like CJ Tudor, because Stephen King is her inspiration for her books and she's been very upfront about that. Next, I have horror novellas. So if you're a fan of novellas, these next recommendations are for you, and they are by the same author, Lauren Carter. So first up, we have Your Darling Death. Look how short this is. I mean, you could fly through this in no time at all. So perfect for novella fans. And I just love the premise of this. It's so unlike anything else. You, as the reader, are dead, and your wife, Lilith, is telling you the story of your funeral and what is going down at your funeral. And then your family turn up and there's just loads of drama. And I kind of got so invested in the drama, I forgot that this was a horror. So when the horrific things started to happen, I was like, oh my god, what is this? I think this is so unique, so cool. I love the way that Lauren writes. So spooky and creepy and brilliant with novellas, really pack a punch. The other book I have to recommend is When the Demons Take Hold. This one's a little longer, but still a short one. This one you'll really like because it follows a writer retreat. So books, writing, we love to see it. You follow 5 writers in this house. They're on a writing retreat. When terrifying things start to happen and there's a mystery around the house and around just what's going to happen to the people. This one is a gory horror that I was very taken aback by, to put it nicely. Things started to happen and I was like, I don't know about that one. I loved it. And then I was speaking to Lauren and saying like, oh, we should have a scene like about this character and what happened from his point of view. And I'm sure she was just thinking to herself, you need help. But I would like to see that scene, so... It was, again, a really quick read. Such a captivating writing style. I just love these books so much. Definitely recommend Lauren. And there's loads of other books as well that Lauren has written. Short stories, a few anthologies with stories in them. I couldn't recommend them enough. If you want to read a free Lauren Carter book, you can sign up to Lauren's subscribing list. What do you call that? Subscription list, where you get emails from Lauren. I will link Lauren's social media down below, because why would you want to read a free book? Next, I have a stack of books all by the same author again. You can tell once I find an author, that's it. I'm going to be invested and I'm going to read everything. And this is my Darcy Coats stack so far. Don't worry, I won't recommend every single book, but I will say that Darcy Coats so far has been mostly hits for me. I've had a couple of and a few misses, but for the most part, I've really enjoyed the books that I have. So my favourite of the haunted house novels of hers that I've read so far are Haunting of Blackwood House and Haunting of Ashburn House. Phenomenal. If you are looking for a spooky haunted house story that's also like cozy small town, isolated setting, which I know sounds really ridiculous, these are for you. These are brilliant, but they're actually really scary. If you want even scarier haunted house, you have got Gallows Hill, which is definitely not a cozy vibe like these two are, but it is very scary and set on a winery. But I absolutely love these two the most, and I do recommend these. I think they are absolutely brilliant, and I cannot wait to pick up even more of Darcy Coats' haunted house novels. I'm slowly making my way through them. They are also on Scribd all at the moment, so can't recommend them enough. If haunted house novels aren't for you, then from Darcy Coats I would still recommend From Below, which is very Titanic-esque, set on the SS Arcadia. You follow 2 timelines: when the SS Arcadia sunk and many years later, when we follow Cove and her diving team, who all go down to the SS Arcadia to film a documentary on what truly happened when the Arcadia sunk. Very spooky, very scary, very claustrophobic. There was some very tense scenes. It was beautiful. Like, some of the descriptions of the boat were just magnificent. And if you are like a Titanic fan, I love the Titanic, I'm obsessed with the Titanic, you're gonna love this one. It's so good, and even though it's super long and daunting, it doesn't lose its sense of urgency. I really, really enjoyed this one. Very, very different to these haunted house novels, but yet still as good. So pick and choose whatever you're fancying. Darcy Coats definitely writes something for everyone. There's like winter slasher horrors, haunted house stories, sci-fi stories, anything you could want. Big fan. Moving on to more of a feminist mess with your brain horror, we have The Mad Women's Ball by Victoria Mass. Set in 1885, we have an asylum. Women are sent, usually by men, when there's nothing wrong with the woman, and they are treated horribly, and there's like an upcoming ball, the Mad Women's Ball, that happens every year. I cannot really say anything about this. Nothing is really told to you in the synopsis. Everything that happens in this book is a surprise, and so I don't want to ruin that for you. But if you are into feminist, anti-men, the discussions around mental illness and the travesties that have been put on women for many, many years, and beautiful writing, and oh god, the list goes on forever, this is one for you. It is short, but it is a heavier read, so do be aware of that. I think that it was so just horrific in the way that what's happening in it is horrific, and the way that these women are treated is again horrific. It's so unsettling and so gross because it's so realistic. It's what happened to women. It's still what happens to women when men shut them down and turn people against them, calling them crazy because they're an emotional woman. Like, this can make you quite angry, but it is definitely one that's very different to the rest on this list. It's more of an unsettling, angering feminist novel. Gothic, very atmospheric, a very beautiful book, and also a very important one. I would definitely recommend this. I love feminist literature, and this is one that I absolutely adore. My last physical book for this video is one that I can't really describe. It's Horror by Grady Hendrix. Grady Hendrix writes very queer horror, not all of which that I love, but Horror I just found so encapsulating. As you can see, it's kind of set out like an IKEA catalogue. Very odd. And inside it is set up like an IKEA catalogue. Like, that's not a very good page. Like, it literally has like instructions and pictures. These pictures slowly become torture things throughout the books. You can see like torture methods. But there's a gurney, basically following a IKEA-like store in Ohio where every morning staff are going in and the place is completely wrecked and the security cameras aren't showing anything. So 3 store employees are, I guess, set up to do a 9-hour overnight shift in IKEA or Orsk to see what really happens at night when everyone goes home. This is a very creepy, paranormal, slasher, grotesque horror that is fascinating, don't get me wrong, because like an IKEA horror, like that's so much fun. But it's very creepy, very scary, and I think one of my first dips into adult horror that I was a bit like, this is very far from me. So you can see the front here, and then look at the back. Like, that is just so creepy. Very spooky. I need to reread this. It's been so long, but I just love the way it's told. Like, it's like really set up like a little catalogue. I absolutely love it. I think the story is brilliant. Like, it's got like a little map at the beginning of the showroom. If anything, I just love the way this is set up. Like, the way this book is done. Oh, it's my gift note from Jade. Thank you, Jade. I think that if you're into something fun, fresh, and new that you haven't really experienced before, I can guarantee you have not read a IKEA horror before, unless you've read this. Now for books I don't own physically. First up, we have A Dowy of Blood. This is a Dracula's Bride reimagining, following Constanta, who is one of Dracula's brides. And initially, she is besotted with him until she finds out the truth. And then you kind of see her progress through understanding that her love may be manipulation and all these other things, and the Dracula's not quite the good guy. I just think that this story is so well told. It's so beautiful. I think it's written by S.T. Gibson or something. Their writing is unreal, like unmatched. It's so beautiful. It's so gothic. It's so atmospheric. It's everything you could want from a gothic story. Like, this is gothic horror encapsulated so perfectly. I have no words to describe its beauty. The descriptions are so lyrical. Every sentence packs a punch. If you're not a fan of flowery writing, you might not love it. I'm not a fan of flowery writing, but I kind of went into it knowing that's what it was, so I was fine. I absolutely recommend it, especially if you are a flowery writing horror kind of person, or you're a Dracula fan. You'll enjoy this, I reckon. And the final book I have to recommend is Eden. This is a supernatural eco horror. Basically, the world has kind of gone, well, just, you know, the way the world is going, you know, the collapse of nature. And so they set up, I think it's 7 or 9 virgin abandoned zones. So basically, humanity is not allowed in these zones. They set up like this dome. Nobody's allowed in. Nobody. And there's like guards protecting these bubbles. Nature is allowed to thrive in there however nature wants. That is how it works, and it's an attempt to like save the earth. But naturally, as humanity does, humanity would like to experience this unprotected bout of nature. So we follow a team of people who want to hike Eden, one of the virgin zones. And so That's who we follow as they go in and realize that maybe nature isn't the only thing that's taken over this area, and maybe that nature has become a lot more primal in its freedom to spread. This is a horror that really like envelops you in. I was really scared. I love nature horror. Nature horror is like my favorite thing. I love like people stuck in mountains. I love anything to do with hiking and getting like lost or being hunted by animals. They're like my favorite horrors. And to be honest, I'm always let down by them because I have so many high hopes for them because they're my favorite thing. So this one not letting me down, loved it. I don't know why I don't have a copy of it. Like, I really want to reread this. It was just so entertaining. I remember certain scenes, because it's been a while since I read it, that just left me so shaken, and like I had like a cold core. Like, it was that unsettling that I was like cold. It was brilliant. And like at the end of the day, I think it's like a really good discussion on how humans can ruin everything. Like, if you left it alone, karma got you. You shouldn't have gone in there. And also I love the discussion on like the fact that we'd ruined the earth, so there were these needs for these zones, and instead of changing the way we live, they decided to let us continue to live and ruin the earth and instead make these zones that we as humanity still can't help ourselves but to try and ruin. I just think it's a great, not only a horror story with actual scary moments, but also a great like talk on humanity. Those are all my horror recommendations. I really hope that this helped somebody find something that you maybe haven't read before, or give you a deep dive into like the different parts of horror that I know of anyway. I don't know all of them, as I said. I'm just a beginner myself, only a few years into reading horror, but I'm getting much more into it recently. Like, kind of like all I want to read is horror and romance, which I know is a very contrasting set of preferences. If you have any horror recommendations for me, please leave them down below. I would love to read your favorite horrors, or any you think that I would love, or any that you're interested in picking up. If any of these have appealed to you and you're thinking about picking them up, let me know. And yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I shall see you in the next one. Bye.